if you are not adaptable, you don't move with the shifts, then a machine is going to replace you.
One thing that is being preached a lot is having multiple streams of income.
Mm-hmm.
And the youngest people, even people who are fresh out of school, are looking for 2, 3, maybe even 4 different opportunities to be able to express themselves.
You have a kind of generation that we have now that is tapping heavily into AI.
Hello, and welcome to Beyond the Headset. This is the podcast where we delve into the inner workings of the BPO industry and what makes the BPO industry tick. Today, we're going to have a very interesting conversation about work. What is work? Work is something that has shaped human identity from time immemorial. From farms to factories to working 9-to-5 jobs to working in offices and taking virtual calls. Work has evolved and has evolved very steadily. But in the last 10 years, the pace of change of work has never been faster. We've seen a shift from people working 9-to-5 jobs to people being able to work anywhere in the world. And what does that really mean? What does it mean to have a job in the first place? So today, we're going to take a look at the future of work and the place of AI. And I'm joined by Nakoshi Kofi, who is the Senior Manager of Customer Success, and by David Ohina-Mwakun, who is the Workforce Manager, both at eSAL. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Welcome. Thank you too for having us.
So like I mentioned, work has changed. It has come from having farms to having a 9-to-5, working in an office. But in the next 10 to 20 years from now, when you imagine the workplace, what do you see? To Nakoshi.
Thank you. That's a very interesting question. Honestly, from a personal perspective, I think work should be more fun, flexible. Flexibility is the first word that jumps at me. Of course, tech, a lot of tech, and more of creativity.
Okay.
And, employees having more room to negotiate their terms of contracts.
Okay. When you say flexibility, you mean flexibility in terms of working hours, or do you mean flexibility in terms of place of work? When you say flexibility, what exactly do you mean?
Both. In terms of the shift models that we run, like you said, we work remotely, hybrid, and recently people are talking about digital nomads, people having fun traveling and still being able to do their usual work, and people having even more than one employment contract at a time, not tying down employees. And even in the physical space, how we incorporate tech into our, CRMs, work tools, the kind of physical environment that we offer employees. That's the kind of flexibility
It's interesting
about.
You mentioned digital nomads, because I know for a fact that New Zealand actually has a digital nomad visa,
Yes, that's right.
which allows people to come into the country to work from their country, do their remote work from their country. So David, do you think we're witnessing the end of your traditional 9-to-5 job? And if so, what is taking its place?
So I think what has been the shift is based on, it's really been disruptive. Where we used to have a traditional 9-to-5, but now the story has changed based on how disruptive work has been, or based on how AI has been augmented into our line of duty. Where you have the office setup meant for 9-to-5, you don't have it anymore.
Right.
I think now it's more geared towards hybrid work, where we have the remote work, where you can be in the space of your home and you can log in and just start working. So it's been dynamic. There's been some changes, and above all, you realize that you have the chance to still have this well-being. At the same time, you have the space to also have that psychological safety in terms of how remote or hybrid or on-site will be, depending on what the policy of your company has for it.
I mean, remote work used to be a perk. It was reserved for your CEO when he travels or something. He can work remotely, but now it's a norm. So, what do you think is next for how and where we work?
So, as you said, where you used to see or used to have remote work as a privilege, or let me say, based on the level of leadership that you see yourself, but it's not there anymore. I think where remote work is going now is geared towards purposely driven convergence, where you don't have to necessarily have to be in the office.
Yes.
Based on you only be in the office, or probably you only be in the office where it is purposely driven based on the collective goal that you're supposed to achieve. So, for example, you have these freelancers who tend to work at different areas or different locations. The moment you see them converging, and probably there's a project, or probably there's something that needs
Something
to
that
be
requires their physical presence.
Yes, that needs to be discussed, and that needs to ensure that everybody's aligned, or probably there's something that needs your presence to work on. So I think that's been the new trend, or the new thing that we see ourselves coming. To add to it, where we have the gig economy coming in terms of where you have global talents being connecting from other places, you realize that it's not applicable in terms of deconversion, but you are much more focused on collaborating virtually.
Right.
Exactly. So these are some of the things that you realize that has come to play now, and that's been the newbie.
Yes. With your mentioning of the gig economy, because the gig economy plays very heavily on the skills of the individual, and it has so much potential to change the future of work as we know it. So now, with so much change ahead, what kinds of skills would you say matter the most that you could use to get the most out of people?
Adaptability, with the speed at which, the business environment is changing with respect to the tools we use, AI, the kind of softwares that we are exposing employees to. The balance between the soft and the tech skills would have to be done properly. Some will argue that soft comes on top, now tech comes on top. I think that it should be a fine balance.
You have to strike a very fine
Yes, it should be a fine
between them.
balance, because you wouldn't want to overdo the tech competencies and forgo the soft. You wouldn't want to do the soft because now it's not too heavy, but there should be a fine balance. The employee should be adaptable. Problem solving skills, irrespective of where you find yourself, because you are looking at resolving customers' issues speedily. So you should have potential employees having that skill, and they should be creative as well, and be able to accept the kind of environment that we find ourselves, whether virtual, whether remote, or on-site. Because now we work with our co-workers speak French, Spanish, different time zones. If you're not emotional intelligent, if you want to call meetings, now you have to, are you on EST, are you on PST, are you on GMT? So that's the kind of mix we are looking at. You don't just set up meetings in Accra and someone, it's 1 a.m. Right. So even if we are working in a hybrid environment or in situ, we just have to make sure that we are very adaptable and open-minded to, be able to embrace all the changes that are in the current workspace.
So with that being said, I mean, education has a very important role to play in all of that. Education opens your mind and everything. But with that being said, do you think that attaining a degree is still beneficial? Will it still hold weight, or will skill-based hiring become a more prevalent thing?
Once again, balance. You would walk or enter into a space with your skill, but scaling up, going up the ladder, someone will eventually look for a document that backs the skill that you're working for. So I think balance is the key. Even though personally, if I'm talent hunting, I will look out for those soft skills to come up with self-learning, but you don't self-learn without getting certification. You will need to self-learn, but you should have certification. You should be certified. You don't just say, I can do it. Let me show you that you are on paper. Documentation is still key. So not necessarily degrees, but definitely some form of certification to back whatever skill you have.
That's very key.
Just as Na just mentioned, where the degree it becomes the baseline of how well you've been able to invest into yourself based on your knowledge that you've been able to acquire. So it becomes a baseline. It gets you to the door where now the digital skills, it's what now is emerging. So you realize that the skills that are mostly needed on the job. So degree gets you to the door. It doesn't need to be overlooked, but the skill is what keeps you going. The digital skill certification keeps you going.
We've seen machines taking over jobs. In the Industrial Revolution, we saw the assembly line take over the jobs of so many people. And it has its perks. But then we see that machines take over a lot of the repetitive tasks. So as that happens, where will humans find purpose? Where will people find purpose and meaning in their work? Because to be honest, a lot of the work that many people do on a day-to-day basis are repetitive.
Right.
That is being taken over. So how will people find their purpose in their work?
The question to me.
Or question to any of you.
Okay,
Question to
so
any of you.
I'm not for the argument that computers, machine, AI are here to replace humans. Because even with, introducing machine into the work we do, eventually the complex of issues, the situations,
Will most definitely
we'll
require
get to a human being.
yes.
And it's the humans that are feeding the machines in the
Yes.
first place. So I know Gen AI has its own blah, 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 but definitely we would need humans at the end of the value chain to make sure that whatever the machine is doing is
Has
a
been
check.
done properly.
This is it for me. If you are not adaptable, you are not open-minded, you don't move with the shifts, then a machine is going to replace you. I think that humans would rather be in high demand depending on the skill they bring to the table to be able to, assist or support. Now, I don't know who is supporting who, whether the machines are supporting the humans or the humans are supporting. But yeah, it's a balance between the two sides. So definitely humans are still needed in the mix.
Okay. I mean, so you brought AI. AI has become something that we cannot avoid in the conversation about work and then advancements in work. But how can it support workers rather than replace them? Because a lot of people are making the argument, especially now in the age of generative AI. You can put a prompt into a machine and it can generate a whole image for you.
Right.
Recently, you can generate a whole movie from AI. But how can it be a support rather than a replacement?
So you see, I like the example that you gave where you put something in and it gives you. I see workers should see AI as a collaborator. They should see AI more as not a competitor but a collaborator where it's going to aid them in terms of executing their work and leave the human connection, or will leave the soft skills where they have to leverage on and develop themselves. In terms of, when it comes to the heavy lift in terms of the repetitive work and all those things, I think it saves time when AI comes into play. And now the focus has to be on the human part of things. So when you talk about the BPO, we are much more concentrated on how to develop the agents, or possibly how to understand the scenarios based on the volumes that are coming in. So these are things that workers should see AI not as a threat or a competitor at the end of the day, to help them, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So aside the speed that AI helps us to, handle customer issues, we are talking about a drastic reduction in error rates. Spoke about, we are from the BPO industry. You know the kind of questions that you are supposed to ask customers before assisting them. The kind of complex protocol.
That you're supposed
Mind
to follow.
you, clients or businesses are offering customers complex, products and services. So definitely the issues following will be, similarly complex. So this is it. Error rate is reduced drastically. AI is supposed to help you to cross all your T's and dot all your I's. The prompts, sometimes you need to refer to documents in order
Yeah.
to serve a customer
Yeah.
well. And we are human. So I think that the most important thing, aside the time it takes, our ticket count going down, our traffic going down, is that it helps us, it guides us to be able to reduce the error rate, and the customer eventually is more happy, more satisfied. Customer experience is, top notch.
Okay, that's very well said. So David, being a workforce manager, what would you think the best approach would be for organizations to use AI to redesign work around human strengths?
And look, if you're not having such discussions, you'll be left out. You'll be left out. Now you realize that you have opportunities coming from diverse ways, diverse places into the country, and how this is going to be augment, or how this is going to augment that even the agents feel part and parcel of the vision, that because is the elephant in the room, which is AI. It gives employee the leverage to also upskill as they go along, because it has been introduced into the organization. It gives good clarity in terms of where the business is going, in terms of the vision, and how well agents can also peg themselves into such AI transformation that is happening.
Do you think that there is a risk that AI could widen inequality, depending on how access to tools or training is given?
It's a two-way thing. So inequality in terms of, it depends on the level of, I always say that the level of investment being placed into AI determines what you get exposed to. Some business, or the top businesses, we tend to see that AI now is meant for only the top businesses. But now realize that even the middle or small businesses are now also having AI into their play, or having as part of their operations. At the end of the day, what it tells us is that if you look at different continents or countries, realize that it tends to shape even their way of life, even the way that they go about even their work. So we're talking about in Africa, where you realize that it has people well-being are really important. And this AI, when it comes into play, realize that the first most important thing has to do with their emotions, where we have to be intelligent about their emotions, because it has gone to reduce the repetitive work. And some of them might even felt left out because they feel as if, look, it's coming to replace their work. So I feel at the end of the day, it needs to be an intentional discussion as part and parcel of the business where it's heading to.
Yeah, I think the word intention, but the gap. So in terms of how wide, I
Yeah.
think it's rather narrowing.
Okay.
Like I mentioned earlier, you'd have business partners, even work colleagues living in different time zones, working from different sites, and all that. It rather narrows it. Thankfully, AI is not super expensive. I mean, the basics of the AI, unless of course you are going for very high, value, technology or AI support tools to, help you. But I think that it rather helps to narrow the gap instead of widening.
Once I widen the gap. Okay. So early on, you mentioned that we have different colleagues working from different places in the world, even for places of work where they work in person. You have people speaking different languages, different people from different backgrounds. How do you think attitudes towards work will shift or will differ across cultures in the future?
You have a kind of generation that we have now that is tapping heavily into AI. So you realize that now you sit at the comfort of your zone, your home, you are doing about 3 or 4 jobs, and you are being a content creator, you are a customer agent. At the end of the day, what is going to happen is that it gives them room for for diversity, where you don't do one thing at the same time. You do different things because of where this thing comes into play.
Yeah. And I think that it's brings up the subject of, the traditional employment contract as well.
Yeah.
Because, potential employees will come to the table knowing what they want in terms of flexibility, the kind of spaces they would want to work in, the time they would want to work. You can't tie them down with, you work for me, don't work
Yeah.
for any other person
Yes.
again. The social presence of your employees, you know, you can't zip an employee down based on what they show to the world,
Yeah.
on their social platforms and all that. So
Yeah.
it will definitely influence our talent hunting. It will influence the recruitment process. It will influence the kind of agreement between the
Sure.
employee and the employer.
Yeah, especially when that kind of skill is a skill that's in very high demand.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. They come to the table knowing what they want, and they will look out for certain, indicators in the work environment before they even join you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you should realize that from where now is coming from, it has to do with where you had the loyalty to companies, where now you realize that they want a kind of environment, they want a defined environment, and if they're not getting it, look, they want to either have something aside what they are doing, or probably they want to jump off the ship.
I mean, right now, one thing that is being preached a lot is having multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
And the youngest people, even people who are fresh out of school, are looking for 2, 3, maybe even 4 different opportunities to be able to express themselves, and so that they can make a living.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, that being said, and to wrap up this conversation, if you could design the future of work from scratch, and this is to both of you, what would it look like?
Employers should be open-minded. AI gives opportunity to track employees, pay by performance. You want productivity, you see productivity. So the other traditional forms of, engaging employees will no longer be relevant, for lack of a better word. So I think that we should make the future workplace more adaptive to the needs of this new employees that are coming up.
To the new wave of
New way,
employment.
yes. New mindset of being an employee of a business. So the business rather should be moving towards suiting,
The employee,
this kind of
yeah.
mindset.
The mindset of the employee.
Yes, that's right.
I think
David?
I think it's more of talking about flexibility, where from where you sit, it's no more of you have is there's so much it's so rigid that the agent, or let me say the employee, do not have the chance to probably have a work-life balance. Very important, really key. And from what Nat said, adaptability is really also key when it comes to creating the future of work, in terms of based on the demands, or based on the on-demand talent that comes on. You should be able, now you won't be tied to one skill. Realize that because of the diversity, you have 2 or more skills, and it can have, because of the skills that you have, you can apply for 2 or more jobs. So I think that's one of the future of work that I foresee that we should have.
So flexibility from David, adaptability from Na. And this is how we wrap up this episode of Beyond the Headset. We hope that this episode has been challenging and insightful as to the things that the future of work could bring. My name is Augustine Holm. I have been your host, and thank you for joining us.